What's up, hockey fans? This is episode 105 of the Clappercast. It's been a couple weeks, but we're right back here with you. I'm Burke, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sean. Sean, what's going on, man?
You know, I'm thankfully doing better than the Arizona Coyotes right now. That's a travesty going on down there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of bright spots for them right now.
We'll cover them in depth later in the episode.
Yeah, it's been about 8 games on average for each team. Some teams have played a game or two less, and some teams have played a game or two more. So we're about a 1/10 through the season for most teams, and it seems like a good time to kind of give a bit of a, where are they at, snapshot in time. Seems like a fair place. So we'll start right now with the Atlantic Division. So the Atlantic Division has a kind of an interesting storyline connected to another storyline. But the leader of the division, Florida Panthers, are 8-0-1 to start the season, and they had their head coach resign. So
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so, absolutely. And it's going to be an interesting storyline to see what that does to them. Do they keep her going? Do they, obviously they're going to get a regulation loss at some point. What happens there? I think it's like what Aaron Ekblad has had like 9 points or something like that. Like he's been really good, and I know that was kind of a nervous point for a lot of Florida fans, is what he would look like coming back from his injury. And so far,
doesn't look like he's lost a step.
So good. Yeah, he kind of taken off right where he left off with his like Norris caliber season.
Yeah.
So that's
3
pretty
goals,
exciting.
6 assists in 9 games, which is just great numbers for him.
Yeah. And then after Florida, it's just how everyone expected. It's Buffalo and then Detroit.
Yeah, so we got the playoff positions in the Atlantic: Florida, Buffalo, and Detroit. Like,
yeah, and Tampa Bay and Toronto and Boston on the outside looking in. So it's like, what? So obviously, surprising there that Buffalo has a positive record.
I'm gonna counter that. Is it really surprising Buffalo is there, because this isn't the first time in the last 3 seasons they've been in a similar position a month into the season?
That's true.
Weren't they first in the entire NHL 2 seasons ago in the middle of November?
I think so. And people were talking about how Casey Middlestat had finally emerged, and how they were an absolute wagon and they looked so strong, and then they just completely fell off. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point that they have done this before. It's just another ball crushing move for the fans. It's they get their hopes up again just to be yeah, actually, it's another Buffalo Sabres season.
Just mid to late November is going to roll around. They'll be JK LOL and just tank the rest of the way in.
Yeah, which I'm sure fans would be okay with too. Obviously, the huge storyline there continues to be Eichel, but the team looks to be, kind of rallying around whatever identity they've kind of found in the offseason. And keeping Eichel out has been good for them. Focus on playing, and they've had some surprising wins. And Detroit, I think, is kind of in a similar kind of boat, but I think there might be a little bit more sustainable. But I'm not saying that they're going to stay there, but I'm just saying if one of them was going to stay a little bit more relevant, I think it probably would be Detroit, just because they have one of their first liners back in Tyler Bertuzzi for games that aren't in Canada, and Moritz Seider has been really good.
Yeah.
And Lucas Raymond. Yeah. has been very, very outstanding so far.
Yeah, 9 points in 9 games for Raymond to start his NHL career, so that's insane. I think he's playing mostly with Larkin and Zadina. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be Bertuzzi sometimes there, but Zadina, I know, has been in the mix. I've been watching, quite a few of their games, and one thing that kind of stands out is that they seem to really be playing for each other in Detroit, which is really cool to see, because sometimes teams that aren't the most competitive don't have that. But there's Zadina got hit by Garland, and then Raymond got hit, and borderline shots, and everybody on the ice is ready to kind of step up for him. So all their young players are
that's
really
just a
getting
great
stood up
testament to leadership in that locker room if they've managed to rally together and just build a sense of team around what they have.
Yeah, and I think it starts from the top. Like Dylan Larkin, like he took that hit from like Matthew Joseph, which was like a borderline cheap shot, and then he got up and like suckered him. But like there was also like if you watch that, there was like 3 other guys on the wings who were like ready to kind of like throw down for their captain. So it's kind of fun to see, and if you're a Detroit fan, you got to kind of be loving it. And Nedeljkovic has been, I don't know if he's been like outstanding, but he's been definitely good
enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Moritz Seider, like I said, has been, I kind of pegged him as one of the guys to watch this year, and not just me, but he's really kind of lived up to the hype so far. And kind of a cool little trivia thing is that he actually picked his number based on like Herbie the love bug, like the number that it has. So that's why he's kind of like a weird number. I think he's like 53 or something like that. So probably because the Red Wings have run out of a lot of numbers that people can actually wear too. So that might influence it also. But yeah, I mean, outside of that kind of weird top or weird second and third teams, I think the slow starts of Tampa, Toronto, and Boston are kind of worth talking about as well.
Yeah.
Toronto's definitely kind of been struggling to score.
Toronto has had major issues, with their scoring. Like their main offensive players just are not producing. Marner just got his first goal in their last game against Chicago, and that was like it wasn't even like much of a goal. It was some random bounce into an empty net, basically. Matthews has he even scored? I think he scored in his first game.
He's got 1 goal in September, but he was hurt for the start of the season, so he missed probably like the first week and a half or something. Yeah, and he's had a lot of chances, and from what I've seen of them, he has looked dangerous. It's just like their shooting percentage is super low, and
it's just some weird coinciding slump issue where just every major offensive producer for that team is just quiet, and they can't find the back of the net. Like Tavares has looked good; he's kind of been driving what they have been able to produce, and Michael Bunting's been a solid presence to replace a little bit of what they lost in Zach Hyman. But just to keep something going, because otherwise they've got basically nothing going on.
Yeah, it's like Jason Spezza at like 38 or however old he is has like 20% of their goals or something like that. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Also, the Leafs made a little bit of news by re-signing Morgan Riley to a 7.5 like 8-year deal or something like that, and so now they're spending like something like 60% of their cap space on like 5 guys. They're starting lineup almost, but
pretty much
only 1 defenseman in there. So yeah, they've had some struggles. It's early though, but they've got to kind of take on those powerhouses of Detroit and Buffalo and see if they can sneak up in the standings. And then Tampa Bay I think they had a bit of like a fatigue or something from the Cup win. And
well, let's be honest, the last 2 seasons, absolutely. Like, how short was that off season between 1920's bubble playoffs and the 2021 season? There was like 2 months between it. And then they went on another entire Cup run into another shortened off season. So, I'd totally buy if there's a fatigue going on there.
There's the fatigue factor that looks present in their games, and then it also seems to be taking a toll on their players because Nikita Kucherov got hurt again. It was kind of like a weirdo play against like Garnet Hathaway where they kind of went like leg on leg, and there was no like intention there, but he's out long term again. So
he'll be back for game 1 of the playoffs. Don't worry.
I'm sure. Yeah, they'll be able to sign someone crazy while he's out, and
they're going to trade for Jack
because
Eichel.
Of his mental fortitude. He'll be able to come back when. Salary cap's non-existent.
Oh wait, no. His mental fortitude will let him play in the Olympics, and then he'll be back on IR until the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. First line of Team Russia, and then back to playoffs. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, like they've kind of had a slow start, and I think it's worth noting too that that the loss of that entire line of like Coleman, Gord, and Barclay Goodrow, it's been pretty apparent. Like you watch their games, and like they just don't have the same checking power that they did with that line, and like because
that's a lot of forecheck they're missing out on right now.
Yeah, because they brought in like Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Corey Perry, and a few other guys, but it's like they're just not quite at the same level as those guys were. So, trying to find a way around that. And again, it's early, and they're still a really good team, and Andrei Vasilevsky is still an outstanding goalie. But yeah, you just think kind of like the longer the season goes, will they get fatigued more as the team that's played the most games in the last 3 years or whatever, right? You kind of saw that with Pittsburgh, like after their back-to-back, they looked tired because they played a lot of hockey. They played more hockey than anybody else in that period, and it showed. So anyway, and then Boston, I actually haven't been able to catch any of their games. Have you been able to see them and see kind of how they're looking early on here?
I haven't either, actually. They've been quiet though, and that's a main takeaway, is that even like Bergeron, Pastrnak, and Marchand haven't been particularly impactful in the games that they've been playing.
Yeah, and I know that they've had a bit of goaltending issues too, where like Ullmark and Swayman haven't been the most consistent tandem, where they'll have a couple good games and then they'll just get absolutely shelled. So I don't know if that's on the goalies or if it's on the defense or what, but they did lose
Ullmark
a bit
has
of
amazing
defense,
numbers. So. Ullmark currently has like really solid numbers. Marchand's got 8 points in 7 games, but then it's Coyle, Hall, and Pastrnak at 5 points, and then McAvoy, Bergeron, and Bergeron at 3 points. So the key takeaway is just they have not been able to score. And Pastrnak 2 goals in 7 games, that's not much for him.
No, definitely not. So definitely a slow start to the year for them.
Yeah. I think it's another case where they had so much turnover in their depth that they just haven't been able to really click yet. Similar to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then Ottawa is churning along, kind of at the bottom. They had their maybe captain, maybe not. Brady Tkachuk was out for the start of the season for them and has come back. But they're looking okay. They've only got like a -1 goal differential, so they're still in the games that they're in. It's just they're at the bottom. And then Montreal has been kind of I don't know. I thought Ottawa would be better than Montreal this season, but I didn't think it was going to be this early on, this apparent. But Montreal has played 10 games and they're 2-8,
and they've just looked atrocious.
The
first for all of it.
So in 10 games, they have scored 19 goals and have been scored against 34 times.
Yeah,
Carey Price, where are you? Come back.
Yeah. Well, we're at a point where like Connor McDavid has 16 points. Montreal scored 19 goals. This single player is almost outscoring an entire team in 3 less games. Like McDavid would have more points than the Canadians have goals if they had played an equal amount of games.
Yeah, it's insane.
We kind of figured they would be worse just because of all the stuff that they lost, just because of all the turnover, and just because of how fluky last season was. But this change is so drastic.
Yeah, and it's just been.
And you look at like their best players. Jeff Petrie has like 1 assist in 10 games, and Suzuki took 7 games before he really had a few decent games back to back here. They just sent Caulfield down today to the AHL.
The only bright spot is I think Jake Allen had a really impressive shutout, like 45 save shutout, but Jonathan Drouin has looked good. I think he's got like 7 points or something in their first.
Yeah, he's been a positive player. Christian Devorak's been solid as well for them. You hear his name a lot, and he's always making a decent impact on the ice, driving the play, driving what offense they can find.
And then Hoffman has come back, and he's scored like 4 goals in 5 games or something like that.
Yeah, 4 goals, no assists in 7 games.
Sounds like Hoffman, yeah. And then Tyler Toffoli has been really bad. Petrie has been pretty bad. And
Petrie is bad on the score sheet. Apparently, I haven't been watching him that closely, but apparently he's been doing fine in terms of how overall playing and defense, but he just hasn't been able to find any sort of score sheet. And we're talking all stats, like points, hits, blocks, like none of it.
Yeah, he's been doing nothing, like, stat-wise.
Yeah.
Positionally, he might be okay, but,
and as
obviously they're losing games.
Yeah.
And the loss of Shea Weber has been, pretty apparent, and then, Carey Price not being able to be in net is huge. Any other players that have kind of stood out to you in a positive or negative way in the Atlantic?
How about we just mention for Senators Artem Zub? how he sort of just really, yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I first noticed how solid he's been for them is when the fans have already started chanting his name every single time he gets the puck on the ice. But then you go and look at his stat line, and he's doing everything for them. He's playing 23, almost 24 minutes a night so far. 4 assists in the 7 games. He hits, he blocks. He's kind of doing everything for them. So he just kind of came out of nowhere last season for them. But now he's turned into like a solid, probably number two defender for them.
Yeah, I think he was a KHL signing for them before last season, and he kind of just came in and was like a solid guy for them. So definitely kind of cool to see that, just to get someone out of nowhere.
Not flashy, but yeah, he's good.
Yeah, he's a solid defenseman. Like he's just he's there when you need him to be, and you can rely on him and put him out there. And it's funny when you watch them play, and you have like Thomas Chabot. They've got like a shift clock, and it's like 3 minutes or something. It's like, holy crap, that guy's out there for like the entire end of the game sometimes.
Yeah, Chabot's currently averaging over 27 minutes per game.
Yeah, it's stupid. he
is an absolute workhorse.
They got to be careful with that because they could really overplay him, and he can get hurt. So I've seen him like out there, and he's like got his stick on his knees, and he's basically just like resting when he can, like on the point. And it's like, oh man, that looks like beer league. Like, you can't shift because you can't change because you got 3 defensemen, and the other guy just came off. So it's like you're stuck out there.
Well, I mean, looking at the Senators roster, that's basically what they're dealing with, anyways.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, I guess we'll move on here to the Central Division. And so in the Central, we've got St. Louis is currently in first, and they're 6-1-0. And then Winnipeg is in second place, 4-2-2. And then Minnesota's in third right now at 5-3-0. So I haven't really been able to see St. Louis too much, but I know that Vlad Tarasenko is absolutely lighting it up and having a really good season, which is kind of surprising because there was that, he had requested a trade and he was upset that he wasn't named captain, and it looks like he's really kind of put that behind him, and he's really looking like the player he kind of was before some of this shoulder surgery, because he's getting like highlight reel goals. He's just got like great chemistry with his line mates, and he looks really, really good.
Yeah, and that's so nice to see, because there was a lot of talk about whether or not he'd be able to re-find an offensive touch after all that shoulder stuff, and whether he'd be able to shoot properly and all that. He's got 4 goals in 7 games, 9 points in the same and over those 7 games too. And yeah, like you said, he's got great chemistry with his line mates, and it's good to see him re-find his offensive game.
And I think like Brandon Saad has been out of the lineup, so he's been able to kind of like jump up a little bit, and it's been really good for him. I don't know if Saad has come back, but they might have a bit of a what do we do here when Saad comes back. But you got to ride the hot hand. If Tarasenko's producing, you got to keep him where he is.
And it's a similar thing too with Jordan Kyrou for the team, because he started out with 9 points in 7 games as well. He had like 4 points in the first game of the season or something.
Yeah. So, and then the only other thing that I've seen with them is that Binnington has been getting pretty heated, such as his way, but he's like been trying to like throw down with people and stuff. So it's interesting to watch. When was the last time we saw a goalie that animated in net? Yeah, I don't know, like Ron Hextall or something,
right? We don't see that type of thing too often. So
yeah,
he's been doing good this season too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they were like 5-0 to start the year, and they're 6-1-0, so they're really moving along. And then Winnipeg and Minnesota are have 10 points each here in second and third, and Winnipeg. They've been dealing with some COVID things. They've had some players that have tested positive, and then they've ended up being like negative tests, so they've had to isolate. So they've been dealing with some issues there. But they've got some good depth that has been helping them out. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois has been having a really good, solid start to the season here, which is really good to see, because he really struggled last year with being traded out of Columbus and settling in with a new team and coming back to Canada. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah. Winnipeg sort of struggled with this in a similar way to Toronto at the beginning of the season, where their biggest players, their biggest names were not really producing a whole lot. They've been down Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele for most of the season up to this point. Scheifele with suspension and COVID, Wheeler on COVID protocol as well. And even those first few games, I mean, Connor Hellebuck was terrible the first 3 or 4 starts he had, letting in goals on the first shots, and just the defense wasn't looking good, and they struggled. So it's good to see them kind of bounce back and already find their game back up in the middle, back up near the top of the division, pardon me. Kyle Connor, 14 points in 8 games already. That second line, Connor, Dubois, and Kopp, is just looking fantastic on the ice right now.
Yeah, they are doing really good work. And, that's that depth. It's kind of the difference between Toronto and Winnipeg here is, Toronto's got 60% locked up in 5 guys. And, yes, Winnipeg spends money on top-end guys, but they've also got those secondary pieces that are able to complement that and to take on that role if those guys are out. So it's been kind of a neat way to see how teams are built and how they react to different things. Because, when Matthews was out, it was like, oh, what's with the Toronto power play? What are we going to do? And, in Winnipeg, it's like, well, next guy up. So it's kind of nice to see that.
And they've always got a couple of guys down on the third, fourth lines who can provide something offensively when they're elevated in the lineup. Whether it's just a different force on the forecheck, or whether they're actually offensively capable, like we've seen with Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton jumping up the last couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and then on Minnesota Wild's part, they've had really good goaltending. Cam Talbot has some really good numbers so far this season. And it's been kind of surprising for them because, like, Kaprizov has had, like, a bit of a slow start, and Kevin Fiala as well. But, again, kind of a similar thing for them. Like, they've got, some guys that are stepping up, and, Eric Sinek had kind of a bit of a coming-out party last season, and he's kind of showing that, at least for now, it wasn't a flash in the pan. He's still being able to provide scoring for them.
Although his 3 goals were all in one game.
Still, I mean, a Hattie is pretty good.
Yeah, 4 points in 8 games, 3 of the goals in a single game. So they want to see a bit more consistency from him offensively.
Yeah, and they've also got to get Fiala and Kaprizov going because their point totals are not good.
Yeah, that's
right now.
What's Kaprizov at, like 9.2 million or something?
Something like that. Yeah,
so and he's got 0 goals so far. So
yeah, he's got
6 assists at least, but 0 goals, and that's what he's there for.
After holding out for so long, you gotta.
Was Drew Doughty onto something?
Yeah, I guess so. But then after Minnesota, it's Nashville, Colorado, Dallas in the 4-5-6 spot.
The surprise there, Colorado.
Yes.
I mean, I know they've been dealing with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog, the lineup in varying capacities. So that's basically, they're a top-heavy team still. So if they're losing 2/3 of that top 3 for any extended period of time, then it's going to reflect in their performance a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I haven't been able to watch any of their games, but they did have a fair bit of turnover. So they've got to kind of figure it out a bit. And Darcy Kemper, starting goalie on a new team. They've been leaning on him quite hard.
And he's not
to start the
great.
year. Yeah, and he hasn't looked too great. He's played, I think, 7 out of their 8 games. And according to what is it, Tyson Nash or whatever in Arizona, he's the best goalie in the world. So he's got to turn it up a little bit here.
So it's a pretty fitting tandem. They have, according to other teams' commentators, they have the best goalie in the world and the worst goalie in the world.
yeah,
from Darcy Kemper and Jonas Johansson.
Locations press, yeah.
And currently, actually, you can't even compare the two really because the game's played, but Kemper's got a better goals against average, and Johansson has a better save percentage in his one game.
And then, like, Francouz is still hurt, so like, is he ever going to play in the NHL again? We need that opposite-handed goalie back in the league. So it's so cool to see. But yeah, I don't know. They've been surprising, but look for them to jump back up there.
Yeah,
be back kind of in the top. I mean, like, all things said and done here, they're 2 points back right now. So it's
like we're making it out like it's this big travesty surprise, like what a absolute just failure of a season, but like they're literally outgained back.
Yeah, and it's just like, but we look at like what happened to Ottawa last season. Like, they had such a shitty start to the season, and then they turned it on, and they just could never come back from that start. So it's like it could get away on you pretty quick, but we do have a full season again this year, so it's like there is a bit of breathing space, but obviously you don't want to let it get away on you.
70 games left, right? So
yeah,
tons of time to at least get back into a competitive spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Dallas, they've been Dallas. They only have one overtime loss so far, which is hopefully for them, they
are a team that is present.
Get away. Yeah. Miro Heiskanen has looked really good. They've had John Klingberg out of the lineup a little bit. They've got a lot of guys back who missed last season. They've got Radulov and Sagan back. And their younger guys, Robertson was missed a bunch of time. But it's kind of that age-old Dallas story. It's like they got to score more. I think they've probably got they're amongst the lowest totals for goals for in the league, if not second last. I think Arizona's probably last, but Dallas is really struggling to put pucks in the other team's net, which is a shame because Braden Holtby has really been standing on his head for the team, which is fun to see. I was kind of skeptical about that signing for them, considering they've got a bit of a logjam in net, but he's been really good for them. It's just the team hasn't been able to give him any run support.
Yeah, and looking at their leading scorers, Heiskanen has 7 points in 8 games, and then you've got Radek Faksa with 4 points in 8 games, and Pavelski, Raffl, Sagan, Radulov, and Suter with 3.
Yeah,
that's just not good enough, and it doesn't matter how good the goalie is. You're not going to win games if the offense isn't producing.
Yeah. So it's kind of the Dallas story. Either they're really good at scoring and not good at defense and goalies, or they're good at goalies and defense and not scoring. So it's like, okay. So hopefully they kind of put it together here, and guys like Hintz and Gurianov can score, and Robertson. But I don't know. And then the bottom of the league here is Chicago Blackhawks, or of the division, sorry, but still league.
I mean, accurate either way.
The Chicago Blackhawks and the Arizona Coyotes, which they're kind of in a race here for the worst. Chicago's 0-7-2, and Arizona's 0-8-1.
I mean, Chicago's an embarrassment on the ice and off the ice, and Arizona is exactly as bad as we expected.
Yeah. So good thing Chicago went out and traded for Seth Jones and brought in the Vezina winning goalie, and they look like crap.
Yeah, good thing Stan Bowman went and completely decimated the team in his last-ditch attempt to do whatever he was trying to do on his way out.
Yeah, so fuck him.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, it sucks because it's like, obviously, like, the franchise is not just like the people who run it, and the people who run it made some absolutely egregious mistakes in judgment and just being complete pieces of shit. And it's like a total black eye in the franchise, and it's like, obviously that's not the same as the people who did it, so it's just sucks. But yeah, fuck that franchise. They need to do a whole lot to.
I would love to see them go winless for a season just to piss off the owners, than whoever else is around there, whoever else had an impact in that franchise. I
did see like the letter that Rocky Wirtz wrote to the Hall of Fame. I thought it was obviously they can't do anything to like undo what has happened, but I thought that was a positive letter that they wrote. Anyway, not to get too much into it, but yeah, Chicago sucks on and off the ice, and a lot of their players have really kind of been showing, their true colors, and we'll leave it at that. And then Arizona, yeah, they suck. It's
they are terrible.
They've had a lot of players have had really bad starts to the season, which are probably going to continue to just bad years. And I wonder if they might put in like a trade request. So I was listening to the Hockey Guy on YouTube, and he was talking about like, do players like Jacob Chikrin or Clayton Keller, do they request a trade because like their stats are going to be garbage, and what's going to happen in Arizona? Do they want out? Who knows?
I'm just looking at their stat page. Somehow Chikrin is minus 15 in 9 games.
Yeah. So, he had a really good season last year. It looked like he kind of took over for OEL, and now it's like hot garbage.
And it's how much can one individual player even do? So it's just like you look at this and it's just the combination of everybody is just terrible. And it's like one player is not going to make an impact on that.
No. So, does he go somewhere else? I don't know. Seems like a piece they'd want to hang on to, but
Cutter Hutton's got 3 games played. He has a 741 save percentage and a 776 goals against average.
Yeah, that guy's got no eyeballs. I don't understand why he got signed. Like, he had a thing where, like, his retina's detached from his fucking eyes. I don't understand why you would want that in a goalie in the NHL. Like, that seems like a lifelong thing that you deal with even after surgery. I don't know. It's weird.
a small bright spot is actually we kind of joked about it in the last episode, that goalie they had just called up, Karel Vajelma. I can't say his name.
Vejmelka or whatever.
Vejmelka, there we go. Karel Vejmelka, who has a 920 save percentage and a 263 goals against average. It's like on that team and the way they're playing is actually incredible.
Yeah.
So he obviously his record is 0-5-1 because the team isn't doing anything in front of him, but keep an eye out on his stat line because that's actually really impressive considering the team.
Trade bait.
There you go, yeah. Get a couple more second-round draft picks while you're at it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on, I guess, to the Metro division. And this is interesting. We've got Carolina that's 8-0 at the top of the division. We talked about the Leafs earlier, and Freddie Anderson looked really good on Carolina.
Yeah.
We did.
That's the thing. Carolina is such a more solid, well-rounded team than Toronto was for him. So he's got a little bit better of a system and defense in front of him to help cover, because Toronto is more offense and Carolina's better all around. So going to make the goalie look a bit better.
Yeah, they've looked sharp so far. One, I know you're probably not a huge fan of this, but Tony DeAngelo has actually been doing quite well,
which is unfortunate
on their team. Yeah. I mean, I think for hockey fans who like people to be held accountable, it's bad, but for Carolina, it's good. But even when he was on the Rangers and not being a total douche, 2 years ago, he was running power plays and stuff and putting up numbers. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about it, but he's doing well in Carolina. So yeah. I guess kind of Dougie Hamilton's not there anymore, so they've got a kind of a opportunity there for an offensive-minded defenseman. He's on a cheap deal right now, so there you go. But otherwise, Carolina, their forward crew has looked really good.
Yeah. Who's been extremely impressive is Andrei Svechnikov. He's been doing absolutely everything. He's been their best player on the ice so far this season, 11 points in 8 games, but he's also just contributing in so many different ways. He's shooting a ton. He's got 31 shots. He hits all the time. He's doing a lot for that franchise, for that team on the ice right now. And he's really, he's really coming into his own as just a strong power forward type.
Yeah, he's looked really good. Okay, and then in the second and third spot, we've got the Washington Capitals and the New York Rangers. Capitals are 5-0-3, and Alex Ovechkin, 9 goals, 6 assists, 15 points in 8 games. So an absolutely insane start to the season for him. I hope he sustains that pace. He's on like a 150-point pace. So hopefully he does that.
Absolutely feasible. Totally sustainable.
Yeah. So I hope he does it.
I feel like we need to make a disclaimer about this division in general, because we're gonna get into right away. We're looking at Washington and the Rangers, and I mean the Rangers are a bit higher up than we thought they might be, but we're gonna start looking at the lower half of the division and realize Pittsburgh and the Islanders are in last with 8 points, but the thing is they're only 5 points back of Washington and New York in second and third. So this is pretty close still. Yeah, it's still that Metrodome. And I mean, here we've got Columbus sitting in fourth right now, and they've been solid. And Elvis Merzlikins has been incredible in net for them. They've been getting contribution. Boone Jenner, a new team captain, has been just fantastic on the ice.
Yeah, and Patrick Laine has been looking okay.
He's been contributing.
Yeah, it's looking like the Metrodome again, where you've got, Carolina's kind of way out in front right now, but they're probably not going to finish 82-0. And then like Pittsburgh was without Crosby and Malkin. They got Crosby back for one game so far, so they're probably going to start turning it around here. And the Islanders, they've had Varlamov hurt, so they've been really leaning on Sorokin, and they've been struggling to score. And they've got a weird schedule too, so
so the Islanders have got this stretch where they had back-to-back games one Saturday, Sunday. Sorokin got a shutout in both of them. Then they didn't play again until the next Saturday, and then they don't play again until the next Thursday. And this is all on the road because they have like a 13-game road trip to start the season because they don't actually have a home arena ready. So they're not doing the greatest to start the season, but that schedule is just rough on a team where they are playing so few games that they just can't find their groove. They've some of their main players like Jean-Gabriel Pageau and Anders Lee have been incredibly slow to start the season if they're not hurt or sick or whatever's going on. Oliver Wahlstrom's looked really good. He's kind of been their main offensive force so far, but it's hard to get a groove. It's hard to find chemistry when you aren't playing games and you're always on the road.
Yeah, and kind of in the middle of the division is Philly, and one of their newcomers has looked really good, and that's Cam Atkinson. He's kind of fit right in. I'm trying to find his stat total here, but he's gotten let's see here, 6 goals, 1 assist in 7 games. So everything he shoots is going in the net basically.
And a lot of guys on the Flyers I feel are kind of having a bit bounce back starts to the season here. Like Sean Couturier missed a lot of last season, injured. He's got 9 points in 7 games. Claude Giroux's got 8 points in 7 games. Travis Konechny's got 6 points in their first 7 games. So it's a good sign for the team because they were just terrible last season, and it's a good sign if they're bouncing back and they're going to stay a bit more competitive this time around.
Yeah, they're looking to have their new defense kind of help win games, and so far they're hanging in there. They've got a positive record, so they're looking to stay competitive. But yeah, we'd probably look to have the Islanders and Pittsburgh back up near the top. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens in the Metrodome. A lot of these games in division are going to mean a lot. If teams are looking to bounce back up, they're really going to have to win those interdivision ones. So, any players in particular in the Metro that have stood out to you at all?
I just want to give a special shout out to a couple guys on the Devils here. First off is just Dawson Mercer jumping in as a rookie. He's been making a strong offensive contribution whenever he plays. He's driving a lot of offense there. 5 points in his first 7 games. But Dougie Hamilton coming in and just changing the dynamic on that blue line, where he's giving them something that they didn't have in watching their game would have been yesterday. He had 10 shots in that game, and you can just see the entire offense when he's on the ice and on the power play just funnels through Dougie Hamilton, where they're all trying to get the puck back to the point for Hamilton to rip it, whether or not he's shooting it at the net or shooting it wide for a rebound or a deflection chance. Like it's running all through him. So that's just a really different dynamic for the team. And his presence on the ice is going to really change how they play.
Yeah, he's looked good. Okay, well,
he scored the team's first goal like 10 seconds into their first game.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Okay, well, we'll move on here to the Pacific. And so you got to cover your ears here, Sean, but Calgary is currently leading the division with a 6-1-1 record. But the good news is Edmonton's right behind them, 6-1-0.
Yeah. I've got to go cry in the corner. We'll pause the recording for a minute here.
If Edmonton has a game in hand, though, so if they win their next game, they'll be at the top. But for Calgary, the story's kind of been, Johnny Gaudreau's having a good season so far.
I think it's Jacob Markstrom all the way.
But yeah, I was gonna say Markstrom's winning them games because he's got like 3 shutouts in his last 4 games or something like that. He had a 45 save shutout.
That's 100% sustainable production from a goalie.
Absolutely, yeah. So he's been, the guy. But the other thing is Andrew Mangiapane. I think he's got about 7 goals or something like that.
Yeah. He is just lighting it up right now.
Yeah.
And it's such a good play style that he's got, where he's such like an energy player who uses his speed to just create space for himself.
Yeah, the work ethic's always been there, and now the goals. He started to kind of draw some attention last season, but he's really looking like a very important part of their offense this season. And then Lindholm, like I said, is having a good year, but Sean Monahan, he's probably got to be on the trade block here. I think he got his first goal. I think he's got a goal and an assist or something.
Goal and 2 assists in 8 games. So he's tied with Eric Branson.
He's been playing on like the line with like Lucic, so it's like I don't know. I would look for them to try and trade him out this season, although he is probably at like a career low value. But if they don't need him, get someone else who can come in. And,
that's the thing at this point when they've got Dylan Dubé and Blake Coleman. I think they're both listed as centers. I don't know if they play center very often, but they've both been outplaying Monahan. They're getting more ice time than him anyways, basically. So
yeah, he's been really non-existent. So that could be a potential move. And then on the Oilers, it's just been the Connor McDavid show as usual, but Zach Hyman has been a really, really good addition to that team.
Yeah. What he brings to the team, what he brings like his play style, is just such a. It's basically what the team was looking for when they brought in Lucic all those years ago. Was just that energetic, physical, driving forward to just crash the net and just be strong on the forecheck. It's just that It's just that Hyman's faster, and he's got a lot better hands, and he can actually do stuff. So Hyman's got 6 goals in his first 7 games in Edmonton, and he fits in with whoever he's playing with. He fits in on the power play, and it's just looking good.
Yeah. So that's been super positive. Any other players on the Oilers that you wanted to shout out?
Jesse Puljujärvi, 9 points in 7 games, and he's got 7 assists. He's really figuring out his game. He's learning how to use his size because he is a big forward, and he's learning how to use that size in front of the net. He's learning how to use it in the corners. He's just figuring that out, and he's really fitting in playing with McDavid. And they're starting to find some chemistry. You can start seeing them making some really technical passes. They're really finding their way with each other.
That's awesome to see.
The other fun one. This one just pisses me off more than anything. But Holland made such an effort to keep Tyson Barrie around over the offseason and ended up, completely revitalizing their defense to accommodate what he brings. And 3 games into the season, he's got Tyson Barrie relegated to the third pairing because Evan Bouchard's playing well. And they haven't switched back yet, I don't think. I think Bouchard's still playing top pairing.
I mean, I think that makes sense because Barry's never been an overly defensive guy. So if you keep his minutes for the power play, that's where he's going to make his money. Is
better utilization.
I mean, he got that absolutely nasty backhand goal on the power play. But yeah, I mean, like that's his career, like just on the blue line on the power play. So yeah, I think that makes sense, and just it's good for Bouchard too. But yeah, it's kind of annoying. But I would think that the annoying part of that D line would be Duncan Keith. But
I figured that was a given.
Yeah.
Not only does it seem like he's been useless on the ice, off the ice he's also questionable now.
Yeah, which has been kind of known for a while too.
Yeah.
But after the Oilers, it's kind of an interesting mix here. We've got San Jose in third spot with 5-3-0, and then Anaheim at 3-4-3 in fourth. So they played a couple more games than everybody. So yeah, they're a little bit up. And then Vegas is in fifth with a 4-4 record.
So San Jose's looked good. They've been energetic. They've been strong. Guys like Logan Couture and Timo Meier have been incredible, putting up points every single game. The interesting part is going to be, will they keep this up by the end of Evander Kane's suspension? And how will that shift the dynamic? Because, there was rumors over the offseason that the team and the players didn't want Kane back. And we see now without him in the lineup, the team is doing really well. Do they bring him back? Do they keep him on indefinite suspension? Do they bring him back? Like, how does that affect the dynamic? How does it affect their performance? So kind of wait and see what happens next month when his 21 games runs out.
Yeah, that's something that I actually wanted to ask you about. Do you think that they bring him in? Because I think they don't. I think they probably suspend him on the team. And then
that would be my preference, just because of everything that he's done, going through the distraction, the constant is it really worth the time, the effort, the hassle to keep him around?
I don't think so.
And especially if
the team's winning.
Yeah, the team's winning, and if those exit interviews from last season are true, the rumors about the players not wanting him back either. Why would you reinsert that if you don't have to?
Yeah, like he broke the COVID protocol. No one wants that. They've all got families and stuff, right? So, why do you want that guy around? I don't know. I think it would be interesting to see the team suspend him for the season. Just say, you know what, we don't want you around.
You know what? Go deal with your personal stuff first, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. So hopefully San Jose keeps it going because it's kind of fun to see them back and being in the talks of the who's relevant in the Pacific. And then Anaheim has had they probably don't. They're not going to stay in fourth. It's just because they played more games.
Yeah. Their points percentage is lower, but they had a really strong start to the season where they won a few games early on, and guys like Kevin Shattenkirk were just doing fantastic. So
now it's the Troy Terry show.
Exactly. He's taken over finally.
Yeah, so it's fun. It's fun to see some of their young players doing so well, and that's kind of just going to be the season for them. It's just how good do our young players look, and how excited can we be for the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's just figuring out what they have in the assets that they possess already.
Mm-hmm. And then Vegas in fifth here with a 4-4 record, so they're 500. The loss of Stone and Pacioretty has been just huge.
And it goes beyond just Stone and Pacioretty too. Their injury list is quite scary right now.
Who else is on the IR for them? Or not on the IR, but on out?
Because they're also short Janmark, Nolan Patrick, Alex Tuck, William Karlsson just went on there today for another 6 weeks. He broke his foot. So they're missing a lot of their lineup, a lot of key guys. And it's no surprise that they're sitting at 500 right now. But I also feel like we should make a bit of a note about this division too, where I've got Edmonton in second at 12 points and Vancouver in last at 7 points. Vegas is really only a couple points back of San Jose in a playoff spot, so they're not like out of the race. They're not too far behind, but they're a lot lower than we thought they would be at this point.
Yeah, and they've won 3 in a row, so it was looking quite a bit worse at one point.
Yeah. They were down at the bottom of the division for a couple of days at least.
Yeah, it was the expansion zone. It was Seattle and Vegas in the bottom. But yeah, I mean, like the season can kind of get away on you if you stay down there for too long.
Exactly.
They'll obviously try and make a bit of a push to get back up there.
I think they're supposed to be getting Stone back soon, is what I heard, but I don't have any confirmation on that. But just once they start getting some of these guys back, it'll help so much to giving them a bit more consistency and competitiveness.
Yeah, they'll definitely want to have him back. He brings so much to the team captain, and just such a two-way player. So yeah, it's important to have him back. And then at the bottom of the division, we've got kind of a three-way tie. LA, Seattle, and Vancouver are all 3-5-1.
That's actually impressive.
Yeah,
it's like that. They suck, but it's impressive.
Yeah. Vancouver has been just awful. They have looked. This has looked like the worst iteration of the Canucks in the past 5 years. Like, they just look so bad. I don't know what it is. If it's like they're not trying or what, but they just suck.
I won't even worry. I doubt it's because they're not trying. It's probably just because the team is just a complete mishmash of players at this point. And you look at the value they've lost in trades, the value they've lost on waivers, like losing Gadjevich and McEwen, and was there one other guy on waivers?
Yeah, there was.
I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, they lost 3.
But these are all 3 of those players were supposed to be on the team on bottom line roster spots, and then they put them on waivers so they can bring in Alex Chase on.
Gadjevich is playing in San Jose, and McEwen is on the team in Philly. He's making an impact.
And you put them on waivers at the bottom of the league, near the bottom of the league, so you can sign Alex Chase on and play him, and have, I think it was Justin Dowling on the power play.
Yeah,
it's decisions like that it's like, I highly doubt it's because the players aren't trying. I think it's just the value that they've lost in the roster and the construction of it, and just the chemistry that they don't have.
It's just brutal asset management, and I think the coaching has just been shitty. Like, the power play coach is just has to go.
Because they should have a good, decent power play when you've got Pettersson, Horvat, Besser, and Hughes.
And Miller.
And Miller. Like, they should have a good power play at least. But even that's been struggling.
Yeah. And, I mean, I think, part of it's, Pettersson, I think, has had, there's one game, I think it was against, I I don't remember if it was against Philly or what. Oh, no, it was against Seattle. That first home game in Seattle. Pettersson looked like complete garbage. Like, it was probably like his worst game in the NHL. He just looked so bad.
He looks like he's in a major slump. Like, he's only shooting 4.2% right now. He's 4 points in 9 games. I think he's really just going through a major slump and is just frustrated.
Well,
I think he missed a lot of time last year too, right?
Like, a lot of the time, and it was kind of like never really confirmed like what really happened. And so he's
missed
a
lot of
injury
time.
And
hasn't played. Yeah, he hasn't played a lot the last couple of years. Yeah,
and obviously a huge part of the team. So it's like, yeah, you're coming back, but you're gonna play a lot. And then just like their centers have been like everyone except for Bo Horvat has just been fucking awful at winning faceoffs. So it's like, it's hard to win games when you're always on the back foot instantly on faceoffs, right? It's like if it's in your zone, you lose the draw, probably gonna get shot against, right? So it's just been really rough. I don't know, maybe I'm a little hard on them, but like they've looked really bad. And like for Seattle, it's like, how good can they be?
Yeah.
They're not going to be
They're a
Vegas.
bit worse than maybe we expected, but at the same time, they're not far back, and they have had their moments, where they do look absolutely dominant. I think it was in their opening game against Vegas. They had stretches of 5 or 10 minutes here and there where they were just all over the Golden Knights, just peppering them with shots. Like, they were exciting to watch. So they have the capacity to do it. It's just finding consistency and not getting completely overpowered.
Yeah, and they got to kind of, Vegas had that lightning in a bottle where they had that awesome line of Marchessault, Carlson, and Smith, right? I think part of it for Vegas or for Seattle is just they got to find the line combinations. Like, they got to find, and they've had some guys in and out of the lineup and COVID situations and stuff, and so they got to figure out who plays where in the lineup because there's so many options. They've got a lot of guys you can play like first, second, or third line. It's like what combination works, and they've I think the leash is a little bit longer for them to figure it out. Whereas with Vancouver, it's like, do we get a GM change? Do we get a coach change? Like what's got to give here? Because like you mentioned, losing so many players on waivers, it's like why do you want to keep 30-plus-year-old Justin Dowling and Alex Chason over like this prospect guy who's like homegrown? You know what he's capable of. You know what he brings to the team. Like they could really use a guy like McEwen out there, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
You don't need to bring in a guy who's got a shot in Chason. You've got Besser, you've got Pettersson, you've got Miller. Like, why do you want Chason?
He's mostly just a net front presence, anyways. He's not the fastest. He can't keep up with a play. His shot's okay, but he's mostly a net front guy. Like McEwen can do that.
Yeah, you can get McEwen. He's younger. He's cheaper. He's still a cheap deal. So I don't know. Makes no sense to me. I think if this season keeps going this way, it'll probably be both coach and GM. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, LA kind of got lost in the mix there, but I haven't been able to catch any of their games. But I know Anze Kopitar is having a really great season.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he started out was he the first star of the NHL in their first week? He completely annihilated everything. 13 points in his first 9 games. Like that's just a great start for him.
Yeah. So it's cool to see for him. I've always liked him. He's a really good professional guy, two-way player, respectable. Gotta love those guys who play both sides of the ice. So yeah, I mean, like they're in the bottom, and that's kind of again where they kind of were expected to be.
That wraps things up for this time here on Clappercast. Make sure you rate and review this episode and toss a follow or subscribe our way. For more content, you can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Clappercast Media or on Twitter at Clappercast. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with more hockey talk.